Hi, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Welcome into Rounding the Bases Live, presented by Enterprise Bank and Trust. Hashtag no stopping you. Appreciate the support from my friends and the partnership over at Enterprise, and also my friends over at KC Cattle Company. You can check them out, kccattlecompany.com, or on social media, KC Cattle Company. Veteran owned and operated. They're up in Weston, Missouri. They deliver to all 50 states. Wagyu beef. We're going to be placing an order today online to make sure that we are good. My guest today, certainly like so many of us out there, has had to pivot and adjust to this new way of living. And he is the co-founder of a company called Team Cura, and very involved with athletes and preparation with athletes. I like what they say. They don't recruit the athletes, but they help those athletes be recruited. I might not be saying that exactly right. However, I will bring into the show right now Rob Hughey, who is the co-founder and business development director over at Team Cura. Rob, how are you doing?
Good, Joel. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing great, and I know you and I have been talking for a long time about doing this podcast, and now
Sure.
here we are. It's been a lot of time in the works, and I think when we first started discussing this, that the world was a different place, and now here we are on the video and the audio side. So, first question to you. We'll get into this crazy time that we're in, but tell me about Team Cura and what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll do the condensed version because my mom and I joke a lot of times. We like to tell people how to build the watch rather than what time it is. So I'll give you the short version. Team Cura, what we do is we train athletes for life. So you nailed it on the head with our line. We don't recruit athletes per se. We make them more recruitable. So what we focus on is our Skills Beyond Drills training program. Provides an interpersonal skills training program for high school student athletes that are looking to go on and play at the next level. I'm a former high school and college golfer myself, so a little bit different than the side of baseball that you're familiar with. But I really, looking back on it, I really had to make myself marketable and recruitable for the potential colleges that I was looking to attend. So that's really where the idea stemmed, was taking our experience from what I was going through during the recruiting process and how athletics has paid dividends, not only when I was in college, but as I entered the work world as well. And, running a startup company, and it's athletics, it teaches you perseverance, it teaches you compassion, it teaches you how to overcome objectives a lot. And running a business now, it's exactly what I'm faced with on a daily basis. So it's good fun though.
Yeah, I think, and I tell people all the time, this is no secret, that when you can have a job or a profession that you have a passion in, and it's not always that easy for people, but when you are fortunate enough to have that passion and love for what you're doing, it makes going to work so much easier. So the fact that this speaks right to your background and your personal experiences, how much does that fuel you every day?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have that conversation, and when I get asked that question, I mean, it's the same answer every time. That's what gets me fired up and out of bed every morning, is helping student athletes that just don't know what they're doing or where to start. Or, I had a really good conversation with a young man from Cameroon 3 days ago, and he was asking about his transition from, he lives in Africa and he's going to a small school in Newton, Kansas. And he's asking me questions about, what should I expect when I first get to the United States? And I was like, well, your international counselor at your school is going to be able to answer a lot more questions than I probably will. But just giving him some insight about what to expect from a social and from an educational aspect. I mean, he's a very bright young man, and he's going to have no problem with his transition. But having those type of conversations for me is, there's nothing else like it. I mean, it gives me chills just thinking about it, honestly.
Well, I think too, it's got to help from your standpoint, and we'll talk about this too. I mean, it's a family business. I know that you're in business with your mom, but you're the guy that is more recently removed from the college athletic scene, right? I mean, you're how many years since you played college golf?
Yeah, so I graduated from the University of Central Missouri in 2016. Played 4 years of college golf there. Was an All-American my freshman year, so had a little bit of success on the golf course. And as you mentioned, yeah, my mom and I co-founded Team Cura about a year and a half ago, And she has the aspect, she's been an adjunct college professor for over 20 years. She's run training divisions in Fortune 50 companies, from United Healthcare to Chrysler Financial. So she has really the training and the educational component. I kind of draw a little bit more on the athletic and pretty recent college graduate, even though 4 years has flown by since I graduated. It's pretty wild.
Well, 4 days flies by nowadays. We can't even figure out what week it is. So that's the world that we're living in. But
Right.
for you, 4 years difference, or maybe 8 years difference from a incoming freshman. In some ways, yeah, maybe it seems like a lot, but you're much closer to them and having walked in their shoes to some extent too. So how much does that help you with your clients?
Yeah, it's a huge help, especially being, even just 4 years removed or 8 years, like you mentioned, being a freshman. I look back at it when I was a freshman in college, TikTok, Instagram was barely a thing, and Snapchat was gaining some steam and some momentum, and Twitter was a thing. But there are social media platforms now that didn't even exist 4 years ago or 8 years
Mm-hmm.
ago. And so really versing myself in that world is something that we do on a daily basis, because that's such a fluid and dynamic scenario as well. But yeah, living that experience firsthand certainly allows me to draw on my experiences. And by no means was my experience playing college golf and the successes that I had and some of the failures that I had in college is not the right way or the wrong way to do the college athletic experience by any means. But if my experiences can help the next generation of incoming student athletes, that's really what we're targeting, and that's really what I'm here to do, and here to serve my clients doing.
We so often hear about the big name athletes, and basically I'm thinking, the superstar basketball, the AAU, McDonald's All American types.
Mhm.
That's a whole business in itself, and I mean that in good and bad ways probably, but
Right.
a whole nother discussion. There's something about that out there every single day. But I've got to think that just take the average, and average isn't the right word either. We're talking about anybody that is getting a college scholarship is an elite athlete wherever they were coming from. And so I've got to think that the world, not think, I know, of the swimmer, the golfer, the cross country runner, the wrestler may be totally different, probably is, than that 5-star basketball recruiter, that superstar running back. And I imagine that's where you guys really come in, right?
You're exactly right. I mean, those 5-star basketball players and football players. I mean, you think about a college athletic programs bank on those multi-million dollars TV contracts that the basketball program and the football programs are bringing in every year. I mean, that's just the reality of college sports. And so those 5-star athletes, they're going to get found regardless. And so, the average 2-star, 3-star recruits, that's where we come in, because those are the young men and women that a lot of times fly under the radar, or are and I know, drawing on my personal experience, I thought Division I SEC or Big 12 golf school was the end all beat all, and that was the dream. But I kind of had to take a step back and reevaluate not only my abilities from a golf perspective, but what's a good fit for me, how far away from home I am. And I knew that I wanted to go into school and major in business. And I knew that UCM had a great business school, and I knew guys already on the team. And my roommate my freshman year was a guy that I was in the same first grade class with, and so it was a great experience for me. And that's a Division II school, so that's where Team Cura really comes in. Is how do you make yourself marketable to those college programs that are looking to fill their roster spots, but you might not know exactly where to start or
Mm-hmm.
what your realistic opportunities might consist of.
And I know it's more than just the recruiting process too, right? I mean, we're talking about a lot of life skills. Almost, I wonder, and you can tell me if I'm wrong or correct me in any way, but if it's almost like, all this is almost like a job application in terms of the real world.
You're exactly right, Joel. I mean, that's it. I use that example all the time. I got my first job out of college. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was sitting in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I'm sitting there. I'm a tender 22-year-old senior in college, April of my senior year, about to graduate, and I'm in Philly for a final interview with an insurance company. I was an outside sales rep for an insurance company right out of school, and this big, tall, good-looking Italian gentleman walks in the room, and he starts, asking me thought-provoking questions, and I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing here. I mean, I was so nervous, but I made a good enough impression on him. And I love to use this example because I'm a huge proponent of the handwritten thank you note. And I handwrote him a thank you note, left it on his desk after that interview. And less than 24 hours later, he calls me and says, Hughey, I want to offer you a job because you were the only applicant that did that for this position. So I was like, all right, I guess there's something to this. So yeah, but it's no different than being recruited for a potential roster spot in college as well. You have to approach that as a student athlete like a job interview, because it is, there are sizable dollars at stake when it comes to scholarship money, even at Division I or Division II levels or NAIA. Division III, it's a little different. They offer academic grants, but same deal. You have to approach that situation and sell yourself like all of us do on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting, and I've had multiple guests that have talked about the power of the handwritten note in previous episodes, and it's something that'll never work for me because my handwriting ability equals my golf game. Horrible. So no one will be able to read it. However, I do think there's something to be said, and let's continue this or further this discussion. There's something to be said about differentiating yourself from everyone else. So I always say it like this. When I got out of college, probably about when you were born, but when I got out, I remember somebody saying to me recently, actually it was my nephew a couple of years ago, he said, well, you had to go find all those jobs, but we have LinkedIn now. And my comment was, well, what sets you apart on LinkedIn then from anyone else? So it might be easier to get in touch with people, but if it's easy for everyone, what's the differentiator? So you set yourself apart by something as simple as that. For me, I started driving around the country and knocking on doors, and suddenly it's not that I was better than anyone else. I actually probably felt the same way about my abilities as you did, as you were sitting there saying, what am I doing here? Mm-hmm. But I moved to the front of the line. So what, as a company, are you guys able to do with Team Cura to help set some of these people apart in their process?
Yeah, Joel, that's a great question. I mean, and I won't go into the whole price component of our program because I know that that's not what this segment is intended to do. But, the handwritten thank you note is just one example. We have in our Skills Beyond Drills program, we have various topical categories around communication, professionalism, managing your online presence, because like you just alluded to a moment ago, social media is here to stay. And we don't tell student athletes to stay off of social media by any means, because that can be a great way to portray all of the good that you do, whether it's, you have a strong emphasis on community service, you're involved with your church, or you have a strong, me personally, I'm a mama's boy. I always will be. So I have a lot of pictures on social media with my mom. So, what do you value as a student athlete? Because coaches and administrators only have a finite amount of time to be able to contact you. And what's the first place that they're likely going to go is probably LinkedIn if you're a HR representative in the recruiting world, or a college coach is going to go visit your Twitter, your Instagram, and your Facebook pages, assuming that you have all those pages. So, I just a selfless piece of advice for any student athletes out there that might be watching. I always recommend just start with a social media audit, because it's not only what you post out there, it's about who you're following, who's commenting on your photos, what type of comments are being left. Because college coaches, they have one job and one job only, and that's to coach. And that's what they want to stick to because that's what they do best. Trust me, they don't want to manage all of the off the field shenanigans that might take place as well. So, just managing your online presence, being able to effectively communicate professionally, maintaining eye contact, obviously the handwritten thank you note. Those are all very easy things to do. But as human beings, I'm guilty of it as well. I have a tendency to, not look people in the eyes sometimes, or, sitting down while shaking hands. That's actually a sign of disrespect in the United States. And so across all cultures, it's important to know what those nuances are. So we train athletes on those little things, like you said, Joel, that can really separate you apart from somebody else that's vying for the exact same position that you're vying for.
So let's get into that. It's interesting you're talking about the cultural differences, and anybody that's traveled the world, and not that I'm some great world traveler, but I've at least had the opportunity in my lifetime to go to some interesting places and for work and beyond work. And what plays here is totally different than what might play over in certain European countries or in Africa or baseball terms in the Dominican Republic. We talk about this all the time in baseball. The
Yep.
way that guys from the Dominican celebrate, it can be misinterpreted at times as being too showy or flashy. And it's like, no, that's the way they play the game and the way they celebrate it. That's the way that they were brought up. And so, there are those cultural differences. Who are your clientele? You mentioned, I think, a kid from Africa. Where are your clients or your potential athletes coming from?
Yeah, they're coming from all over the world, all over the country. We have a national agreement with the National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics, the NAIA. Great folks, local company here in
Mm-hmm.
Kansas City, and they are a great group to work with. And so we help those incoming freshmen be able to develop those interpersonal skills to make that transition from high school to college athletics, because it's a whole different ball game. Pun intended from the baseball terminology.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a whole different transition from high school to college sports. I mean, from not only a time management perspective, but those international students. I had a teammate in college who was from England. I had another one from South Africa, and much like your example just a moment ago, I mean, in England, 18 years of age, that's the legal drinking age in England. But coming to the United States, obviously 21, and so my teammate, he was a great guy. He was one of the most liked guys on our roster. And he had a really good transition and a really good, solid group of guys around him to make that transition from high school. They call it post-secondary school in England, but coming to rural Warrensburg, Missouri. If anybody's ever been to Warrensburg, there's not a whole lot going on. I say it's a one-stop town off Highway 50, about an hour east of Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
So not much going on. But yeah, so we work with student athletes all across the country and all across the world as well.
So in this time now, I mentioned it earlier that, when you and I first talked, there was no knowledge of coronavirus and the pandemic, and now it's the world that we're all living in. I didn't envision that I was going to be interviewing you. I think we had this date set a long time ago. I just envisioned that this would happen, somewhere. I think we had scheduled a conference room at a library or something like that. But here we are in each of our homes. What's changed for you business-wise during this pandemic as you continue to communicate with athletes around the world?
Yeah, it's the nice thing about what we do is that we are online anyways. We're a digital learning platform, so our curriculum is hosted online already. So that's really a paid dividends for us, because I know that states have been scrambling from the Department of Education. What is this going to look like with online education? How much time do student athletes or just students in general have to commit to their school days, their academic days? And it's been amazing, some of these conversations that I've had with folks. I'll leave the name of the districts out of the equation, but I've had conversations with districts here in the state of Kansas that they are basically saying that these students, their grades before spring break when they went remote, are what they will earn as far as their final grades for the semester goes. So, it's the nice thing for us is that we've already been online. We're made for online education for busy student athletes, being able to learn whenever and wherever they're ready. But a lot of the great organizations that we have partnerships with, we're having a lot of Zoom meetings. If anything comes from coronavirus pandemic, it will definitely be the proficiency in Zoom. But the nice thing is we're definitely acclimating, and we're having to adjust just like everybody else. But it's been nice that our platform was already designed for remote learning already.
What kind of concerns are you hearing from those athletes who, okay, they have the ability to stay connected with you and continue to learn? That's the positive. I think the negative and the scary part for so many is wondering about, I mean, many have already lost their spring seasons or the end of their winter seasons, and I'm sure that there's a lot of fear right now for those fall athletes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm keeping up every day with the NCAA and obviously our partnership with the NAIA. I just had a phone call this morning with my connection over there, and they're constantly, not only from the spring season being canceled, but the eligibility determination, all of those spring season championship sports across NCAA, NAIA, and NJCAA, they are all granting those spring championship athletes. So softball, baseball, golf would have been one of them, and other sports. Those student athletes are all granted an extra year of eligibility. So that pays, that's looking at down the road, what type of scholarship dollars are at stake for subsequent recruiting classes down the road. And yeah, talking with high school athletes, I know a young man that is a member at Lionsgate that I grew up playing golf with. He was going to be a senior at Blue Valley North this year. And, Blue Valley North traditionally, I went to Blue Valley West, so it was always a great rivalry with those guys over at Blue Valley North. And he missed out on his senior season of golf because of, having to go remote. But he's a great young man. He's committed to go play at the University of Kansas, and I wish him all the luck in the world. But it's, my heart goes out to student athletes like that miss out, especially on their senior season.
Yeah, and especially for the college athletes too. I mean, I would say for the high school athlete that they're not going on to another level, because at least for, in his case, he's going to continue that career, so to speak, at KU. But if you're done after high school, or you're done, most of them are going to be done and not playing professionally after college. That's it. And so, you hope. How much? And I don't know the answer to this, but if the NCAA, NAIA, if they're granting those spring athletes another year, is there any backlog then in terms of scholarship availability or playing time?
Yeah, I've been asking myself that same question. I mean, I don't even know if the NCAA and NAIA and the National Junior College Association, I don't know if they have that answer yet, because I've been hypothetically running those scenarios in my mind. Because you think about it, say like Tua Tagovailoa from Alabama, he graduates or he declares for the draft, but say hypothetically he was going to stay, Nick Saban already recruited a guy to fill that position and probably offered a scholarship knowing that Tua was going to be gone. So, I've been asking myself that same question. It's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out over the next few years, and what that backlog and not only playing time, but scholarship dollars is going to have in the long term as well.
I want to circle back to communication, and you talked about sort of the do's and don'ts in terms of social media and social media audits, which I wish we could convince everyone at every age to sit there and say, okay, what you posted on that Facebook page might actually be looked at in an interview. And, but
Right.
sometimes we learn the hard way. But in terms of communication right now, I personally think that communication, and this isn't a bold statement, it's important no matter what profession we're in. It's important every day, all day, has been forever, will always be. Like I mentioned before, technology changes so you can do it in different ways, but communication's always been important. I do believe it's more important than ever during this pandemic, because it's those that communicate at the highest level with a purpose that really will help people through this time. And we're all craving that connection right now. There's no question in my mind that this is more important than ever. So what are some secrets or some hints, some tips that you would have for those in terms of the way you guys are communicating with your people?
Yeah, I mean, social media is a great avenue for, staying in touch with people, seeing what's going on, but there's only so much and so far that social media goes. I am a huge proponent. I mean, obviously with social distancing and the guidelines that we're unfortunately faced with, it's kind of limiting the possibility of even gathering, but a phone call in this day and age goes so far. And staying top of mind, and this can go for anybody really. I mean, whether you're a student athlete, a 17-year-old that's going through the recruiting process, and you're wanting to stay top of mind on a coach's mind, really showing the value that you can bring forward. Or even if you're just trying to stay top of mind, I reach out to a lot of the folks in my network and just say, hey, hope you and your family are doing well right now, whether it's in an email or whether it's a text message or a personalized phone call. Just wishing people well right now goes a long way, because that's really what we're all faced with. We're all in this together, and just having a little a little piece of, positivity, rather than the negative. I'm a glass 3/4 full type of guy all the time anyways, but yeah, it's really staying top of mind, really showcasing what you're still doing, involved with, as far as if you're a student athlete, staying in the gym, staying in shape, ready to go once that ground is running. Because correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like July we're going to have some baseball back in action, so those guys are going to be ready to go when the baseball season resumes, because sports ultimately will resume. It's just a matter of time, so, and what that looks like. So staying top of mind is certainly a priority for anybody and everybody.
Yeah, well said. And I do think we're trending towards the beginning of July, understanding that a lot of things still have to happen right, and that's not just the finances, but that's a health standpoint too. So
Sure.
that's true for any business right now. What looks like a trend in a positive direction could go backwards. We have to be ready for all of that. That's another discussion. Final thought in terms of Team Cura and your clients. But anyone that's watching, obviously the website is up there. So if they want to get a hold of you, they'll see how to do that right now. But how does the process work from beginning to end? I just want to get a little bit of an overview so people can understand how this all works.
Yeah, so obviously teamcura.com is where our platform is ultimately hosted. You gain access just like what you would do if you were buying something on Amazon, or if you were logging into your Netflix account. Go to the login or the sign up page, and make a username and password. Once the auto-generated username and password is sent to you via email, you can enroll in the full program, the Skills Beyond Drills program, which gives you a year-long access, over 45 videos. We have ebooks that accompany each one of the subsequent learning topics. We call them, it's a little bit better of a name, we call them personal brand playbooks, but it really rounds out the entire curriculum and how to best utilize the Skills Beyond Drills program to your benefit. And you can always, I always tell my clients that you can always reach out to me via email. I always give them my personal cell phone number, because that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to serve. So you can always get in touch with me via my cell phone number as well. But and then you have a year-long access to go through the Skills Beyond Drills training program. And like I said, I'm here 24/7 along the way to help those student athletes to realize their potential.
All right, so we have the website up there, teamcura.com. Really interesting and fascinating to see what you have been able to do and continue to do even during these times. And clearly you guys are positioned with the way you're online to have already done that, which is awesome and enables you guys to continue to serve those. So, Rob, I really appreciate you spending the time today, and excited to see the progress. I mean, this is, we forget too, we'll give you the final word on this. This is a startup. This is still relatively new, but how pleased are you with the progress of what you guys have seen?
Yeah, we're extremely pleased. It's if anybody ever says that running a startup, especially with your mom, bless her heart, I love her to death. A little bit of nepotism in our company, but that's all right. Whoever said running a startup would be this hard, forgot to tell me. And it is tough, but it's extremely rewarding at the same time. We're positioned to work with some really great folks, some really great organizations that share our like-minded approach and our same values. And it's been a great ride so far, and we're really looking forward to the months and the years to come with Team Cura.
Yeah, it'll be fun to follow the progress. Congratulations on all the early success, and much more ahead. I have no doubt about it. So thanks for the visit today, Rob.
Thanks, Joel. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
All right, stay healthy, and good to visit with Rob Hughey. That's been in the works for a long time, so it's fun to bring that message to everyone. Another episode in the books. Again, want to thank my friends at KC Cattle Company. I got to get on the website as soon as I'm done and order some of that Wagyu beef. They'll deliver to all 50 states. You could also check out their social media, veteran-owned and operated up in Weston, Missouri. And a huge thanks to Enterprise Bank and Trust, #No Stopping You. See you back here tomorrow for episode 37, I believe it is. Thanks for watching Rounding the Bases Live, presented by Enterprise Bank and Trust. I'm Joel Goldberg. Have a good day, everyone.